Hi, guys. Welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's October 5th, 2024. And of course, I'm here with Elijah Weintraub, my co host. Eli, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. What a busy week, a lot to talk about, and I can't wait to get jump right into it.
Yeah, we do. And first and foremost, I just wanted to, as you can see, our banners are in pink for breast cancer awareness week. Eli, nice job with that.
Yep. So for the entire month of
Um,
October, we're celebrating Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We'll be in pink for our graphics to represent the cause in the
very
best way we
good.
can. So yeah.
So this week, I'm turning it over to Eli for the monologue before we jump into all of our sports content. So, Eli, take it away.
And that is sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Summer Hill, New York. All right, let's get into the monologue. And well, there's so many ways I could have gone with this monologue this weekend. I could have talked about baseball, I could have talked about WNBA basketball, anywhere, but I want to focus the monologue on NFL overtime rules. And as we know, it's the most controversial thing in NFL football. And they had to change it a few years ago for the postseason as possession wasn't fair and resulted in some losses. No possession and a touchdown ended the game right there.
Yeah, that
And so
was
now
it. That was the Chiefs Bills
the
game, I
Chiefs
think.
Bills game. Yep, exactly. And now the rule change for the postseason, but not the regular season yet. And we're still seeing some controversy. As Thursday Night Football on Prime Video saw a 36-30 victory for the Falcons in overtime. However, the Buccaneers had no control of possession of the football in that overtime. So what I want to know is the NFL is so good at changing rules, changing plays, finding people, and banning stuff so quickly, but yet they can't change the most controversial thing, overtime rules. I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, how is it fair that in overtime you both work hard to get there, and it comes down to one touchdown wins the game, and that's it, even if the other team doesn't get possession of the ball? That should be changed. Yeah, I can understand. Keep the 10 minutes of football. No problem. If that's your rules of overtime, 10 minutes each for both sides. 10 minutes, for the overtime and call it a day. But every team that is in overtime should have possession of the football, regardless if they score on the first drive, first play, or their turn of the football. And I think that's just the bottom line. If they're able to change everything else, that is the one thing that the NFL should be changing immediately, changing those overtime rules and quickly as possible. And I think we will see some prime examples of that, hopefully coming up soon. But that's one thing I really feel that the NFL needs to change immediately. And I think that's a big issue right now.
All right. Well, that's a good point. And let me ask this. So maybe I'm not as well versed in that rule. Is it still if the team that gets possession of the ball scores a touchdown, the game's over?
That
If
is
they kick
correct.
a if they kick a field goal, does the other team get a
The other team
possession?
gets possession of the football. That is correct.
So it's only if a touchdown is made by the team with the
But
first possession.
that is correct.
Yeah, that's a little strange. I think I
They need
agree
to
with
change.
that.
And remember, it could end a tie, 10 minutes, two timeouts, or replays in New York. But for the postseason, though, they've changed it to both teams have to have possession of the football. I mean,
Yeah,
I think that's something that needs to be changed, if you ask me.
yeah, I think that's right. I don't think you should have an overtime policy, regular season versus postseason. I agree
It
with you
should both be the
100%.
same. So I think that's something
Yep.
that needs to be changed. Like I said, if they're able to find people so quickly, change rules so quickly, ban the hip drop tackle, ban this, ban that, why can't they fix something that's so controversial and most important in the NFL? It's not likely to happen every single game in overtime game, but it's possible. And we already had maybe about five already, and we're already entering week 5, and it's
Yeah.
happened on multiple times so far. And we do
Well,
have a
that's a
comment
good
coming in
point
from
because
Eric. He says, "Good morning to all. Good morning, Eric, and thanks for watching."
yes, primary listener from Westchester, Pennsylvania. Thank you, Eric. Um, yeah, you're right about these rule changes. If they could change this kickoff rule, which by the way, so we're four weeks into the season, and I can see on the kickoffs, these guys can kick the ball 100 yards. So we're seeing
Correct.
just basically more touchbacks than anything, and then they start at the 30-yard line. I don't know if that's
Yeah, this whole
enhanced.
dynamic kickoff rule, I really saw no changes really. I see more touchbacks now than ever before,
That's
no
what I'm
returns,
saying.
and not just that, you're starting 5 yards ahead. How is that? Were we just going to want this to be 100 to nothing game? And we noticed that too. I'm gonna take a look back at the scores last week. We had 35-10, 31-12, 42-29. Are you kidding me? These are all football games, and I don't care about the offense defensive part. I'm just talking about that. And that is also determined by field position. And that is, of course, again, thanks to that kickoff rule. And I think that so far, I'm not seeing any likeness into it. 5 yards ahead, see more points, and not really much. I'm not a big fan of it so far.
Okay. And listen, of course, we'd love comments and emails to Eli's point, whether you agree or disagree with us. It's definitely a topic worth discussing. You know, except for the team that gets the ball and wins the game, then they're not.
Well,
You know,
well, of course, it's different argument for them, but still.
I know. Right.
Overall.
Okay, Eli. Good monologue. Lot of ideas and thoughts go into that. So let's get some feedback on that. Let's move to Major League Baseball because we got through the 162 game season, and look at the years that these guys have had, like the Judges, Otanis, the Wits. But this was wild card weekend, and I kind of like the format. I like it that it's only 2 out of 3. The advantage goes to the team with the best record. They get the 3 home games if it goes 3. But let's take a look at the 4 wild card series. There were 3 sweeps, right? And one just dramatic finish, which we'll talk about in a second. But you have the Royals. They swept Baltimore. Detroit, they swept as well. They beat Houston.
Yep.
And
that was big.
In the National League, it was San Diego swept. And then the final one was the Met game. And, watching that game, I mean, it was a great pitcher's duel. It was 0-0 until the 7th inning. And then Milwaukee comes up and hits 2 home runs.
Back to back.
Everybody, all the Met fans, they were all, beside themselves.
I thought it was over.
Everybody thought it was over. And I know a lot of people that actually turned the game off and didn't see the 9th inning.
And they went right back to Prime Video for NFL football, and they didn't worry about what the ending was. And it turns out 9th inning comes around, and Pete Alonso, 3-run homer that looked like, to be honest with you, when I first saw that ball and it was going, I was like, that's going to be called out. He's going to be short. And then just over, I was like, wow. And you just got to remember, it depends on the stadium in reality. Because if you go to a different ballpark, you ain't going to get that. That's going to be ruled out. That ballpark, you're lucky where you can get that ball over. You're going to see a lot more home runs there.
Right. And in that ballpark, that fence where that home run went over, just to the left of that, if you're looking at your TV screen, was deeper. That would have been a catchable
no good
ball.
Yeah.
But that was definitely a big clutch hit for the Mets.
But now the question stands, though, regardless heading into the rest of the playoff run, do the Mets re-sign Pete Alonso? And that is the big question. And my answer is absolutely yes. If he just brought your team to the next round of the playoffs, surviving you past the wild card round, and gave you a 3-run homer, absolutely. He's done great in the regular season. There were some up and down moments, 100%, but the Mets need to sign Pete Alonso, and that is my opinion. And if they don't, you could say goodbye to every other playoff for the Mets this upcoming season. And you watch, you have a big upcoming week in the playoff run, non-wild card this week.
Well, you bring that point up, and that's right. I mean, we almost went from, let's say Pete Alonso grounds into a double play and ends the game there. That makes a decision about whether they were going to re-sign him. But now he hits that 3-run home run, keeps them alive in the playoffs. So I think, he actually solidified the fact that, he's not going to get Aaron Judge money because he's not Aaron Judge.
Correct.
But I think the Mets will no longer have a choice to sign or not sign him. They're going to have to sign him now after that home run.
I would hope so. And if they don't sign him, there's going to be trouble. But again, this also factors into what happens with the rest of the playoffs. If he does bring them to failure in these upcoming games, that, of course, will be an issue. But I do see him driving this team to a whole new level and bringing this team to a lot of success in this playoff run. And we're going to watch out for that.
Right. And, like I said, we talked about in the beginning of the season with the Mets, it didn't look like they had, a playoff caliber team.
And they
And
did.
Alonso's kind of had if you look on paper, he hit 35, 36, whatever home runs, drove in 88 runs. But it was Francisco Lindor that basically carried the team
Yeah.
for the second half of the season. So
Are
now
the Mets the biggest sleeper team right now?
let's talk about the four series that are coming up, right? We'll start in the
Right.
National League. So the Mets got to play the Phillies. And when
Yes.
I looked at it, I know the Phillies had maybe the best record or second best record in the
Yes.
National League, right? But the Mets have basically owned the Philadelphia Phillies this year and in previous years. And if you look at Philadelphia's lineup, you got Schwarber, who's he's definitely a threat. Harper, he's almost hit or miss this year. He's been battling some injuries, but they do have Aaron Nola and they do have Zach Wheeler, so they got two quality pitchers. So I don't know. I mean, this is what 3 out of 5 series.
Yes, it is 3 out of 5 for this
3
round.
out of 5. So yeah, if you want to pick a sleeper team in that series, but I do think Philadelphia can beat the Mets. So I'm going to take Philadelphia in this series. And then the other series in the National League is the San Diego Padres, who have been as hot as any team in the second half of the season. And, they play well against the Dodgers. So you got a great matchup there. But I do think the Dodgers have, with Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani, question mark whether the Dodgers have that kind of pitching. And there was a big loss for San Diego with Hargrove got requiring Tommy John surgery. So I'm still going to take the Dodgers in this series, but like I said, I'm not going to be surprised if San Diego can pull off that upset.
Absolutely.
And now we go to the American League, and this is from a nostalgic perspective, the Yankees playing the Royals, and people are kind of dismissing the Royals outside of Bobby Witt Jr., who I'm excited to watch. I'm glad they're playing the Royals. And I go back to the 70s. It was the Yankees Royals every year in the playoffs. So great history there. But I think the Yankees, if their pitching comes through, they will hit. But I'm glad to see Bobby Witt Jr. and give people on a national level who haven't seen him play. He's a very dynamic player. So I'm going to take them. And then the last one is Cleveland and Detroit. And, I guess a lot of people are sentimentally picking Detroit, but outside of Tariq Skubal, I don't know that they have enough firepower with guys like Ramirez on Cleveland and so forth. But so I'm going to take Cleveland in that series. It should be a good series, though. So we got good matchups coming up.
I'm going to go get my picks. I'm going to take Cleveland in the victory over Detroit. I have the Mets beating the Phillies. I think the Mets absolutely can beat the Phillies, but they just did in the wild card run. They're going to do it again in Philadelphia. The Yankees beating the Royals. Again, the Astros are out, and that was the biggest threat to the New York Yankees. And now that they are out, the Yankees should be able to make it to the World Series without any issues and no doubts. And I'm going to take the Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani's hot. Padres are great, but Shohei Ohtani's the man, and the Dodgers have it.
All right, so the only team we disagree on, you got the Mets, and I got the Phillies. So
yeah,
we're aligned on those other ones.
And now I actually found the stat out this morning. The most expensive ticket for this postseason right now for a playoff is actually Philadelphia at $417. The lowest ticket is the Dodgers at $154. The Yankees are at $154, the second lowest, and Mets at $293. Third most expensive ahead of the Padres at $319. So that was pretty big. I didn't expect to see that the Philadelphia Phillies would have the best, most expensive seats to go to a playoff game.
Wow. Yeah. So those are good series, though. I mean, I think we're. I like the format now. I was kind of opposed. I thought 3 wild card teams in each league was a little too much. But of course, it's all about revenue and so forth. So that's where you get one of those sleeper teams. And Detroit surprised everybody. And
absolutely,
the funny thing was what it was. I think is it AJ Hinch manages is the Tigers? AJ?
Yeah.
Right. So he knocks off his former team, the Houston Astros, who, I think Yankee fans breathed a sigh of relief that they didn't have to play Houston because they struggled against them for a while now.
And two other notes from
Right,
the
Eli.
MLB. The Reds have hired Terry Francona as their new manager. Officially
Yep.
comes back out of retirement to coach again. And Farhan Saidi is out as president of baseball operations for the San Francisco Giants.
Oh, I think we mentioned that last week with that Buster Posey was named the GM in San Francisco. Which I
Yes, we
didn't.
did.
Oh no, actually, that was one of my random points that you
All
got
right.
from me.
Stealing it
Very good.
as always. No problem.
All right. So
all right.
Eli, let's talk a little bit of college football right now.
Absolutely.
This is kind of I want to say a slow week when you think about it. There's not those big rivalry games this week.
No, but there are some definitely good games out there.
Yeah, and here's one of the bigger games is Rutgers of all teams
I know.
is playing Nebraska.
Yes.
So we've talked time and time again about Rutgers, but right now they're 4-0, and they got a really
They could be
outstanding
starting
running
to
back.
get ranked any day now.
Yeah, they will if they beat Nebraska, and Nebraska is not the Nebraska we know, but it's still Nebraska. So Rutgers had a big win against Washington last week, which that was kind of a statement game. This would also be a statement game, and that'll crack them into the top 25 for sure.
Absolutely.
But what a game last week, Alabama Georgia game. I mean,
it was awesome.
you and I were talking specifically about Ryan Williams, right? And Nil and so forth, 17-year-old kid. What a dynamic player this kid is at 17 years old. And the moves that he made on that winning touchdown was absolutely awesome to watch. And so the dominance of Alabama over Georgia during the regular season continues. That was a big game. And also last night there was a real big game with Syracuse taking on undefeated UNLV. And I don't know if you had an opportunity to watch it. Check out the highlights. This is, Kyle McCord transfer from Ohio State, and he's really threw for 63 passes last night. Overtime victory, great game. So now that makes Syracuse 4-1, and they could possibly break the top 25 this week too.
Wow, so big upset, right?
Yeah,
crazy. All right,
you bet.
Well, game days in California this week, and I always do my top big games to watch out for this week. So here are my big games to watch out for: UCLA, Penn State, 12 o'clock on Fox. Watch out for that game. I see that being a good game. Missouri, Texas, A&M, 12 p.m. ABC. Could be a good game there too. Auburn, Georgia, 3:30 p.m. ABC. Another great game to watch out for.
It's not the same. That's not
the same. Not the same, but it's still going to be a good game though.
Yep.
And the other two, of course, Rutgers, Nebraska, 4 p.m. on FS1, and Michigan, Washington at 7:30 p.m. NBC. Michigan, not the greatest again, but Washington, of course, we know they were both meet last year in the championship game. So we'd love to see those two battle it out 7:30 on NBC.
Yep. Okay. Those are good games. So, but like I said, I wanted to point out. So let's be a little early on the Heisman watch right now. So Dylan Gabriel at Oregon, just year after year, they're in the top 10, and they've had, Bo Nix was the quarterback last year, but this Dylan Gabriel, he's transferred a couple of times. I think he started out at University of Central Florida, and then he went to Nebraska.
Yes. I want to say Nebraska.
But he's lighting it up. So he's kind of just jumped into the lead as the early favorite for the Heisman Trophy. You got to look at Jackson Dart from Mississippi. So that's a wide open, very early. And how about the story though with Quinn Ewers going down for Texas and Arch Manning comes in and he's just been lighting it up. But once Quinn Ewers is healthy, the job is his again. He's going to the NFL next year, so Arch Manning will be the starting quarterback next year. But it's just like horse racing; it's all in the genes, right? It's so amazing that one family is going to have 4 guys: the grandfather Archie and Peyton and Eli, and this kid is going to be an NFL quarterback. So
Awesome.
I believe in genes. It's no coincidence that 4 Mannings are going to be quarterbacks in the National Football League. Great story.
Pretty crazy. Absolutely insane.
Okay, Eli. So let's jump into
High
the
school
National
sports.
Football League, right?
Okay, we're going to there. Okay.
All right. I think you got a picture you want to put up about something about a crown or something. Is that,
Yeah, well, Jim's in the crown. He's got the crown.
there
The
he is.
standings 9-7, and Eli at 7-9. A
But
little
of course, like
disappointing.
the old saying goes, heavy is the head that wears the crown. So it's this will be a back and forth all season with
Yeah,
you and
we'll
I.
see how it goes. But listen, if you want to look real quick, again, 9-7, 7-9. All you got to do is just flip the numbers around. Just I need 2 wins, 3 to get in the lead. So Jim, start losing.
Okay. All
But
right.
it's good to see
So
you get the
anyway,
crown and you get your fame for the day, whatever.
yeah. So give us a little recap from last week and before we go into our picks for this week.
Last week was crazy. I mean, that's plain and simple there. I mean, there was a lot of games to look at. I'm going to start off with I'm going to just choose a random game looking at the board. So I'm going to start with, I mean, there was no really spotlight game. I mean, really. That I would say was it was like a slow week. I mean, the 1 o'clock window had some decent games. Bengals had the victory 34-24. Steelers lose to the Colts again. Anthony Richardson's out. He had an injury. So Flacco did save the day once again. I mean, Flacco, again, you can't underestimate Flacco.
Oh,
The Vikings are still perfect. They beat the Packers, and now they're off to London. That was a crazy game. The Rams lose to the Bears. The Rams are disappointing once again. The Texans win. They love to do close games. 24-20 again was the final. Eagles beat the Bucks in a big one, 33-16. Again, go to Bucks on Thursday night. They head to Atlanta. They lose that game in overtime.
yeah.
The Jets, they're disappointing. They lose in overtime. Not they don't lose overtime. They lost 10-9. The weather factored in. Both teams couldn't make kicks. They looked horrible. The play calling is horrible. The coaching staff is horrible. The Jets need to redo it. And now they're going to place a very tough Vikings teams on the road in London tomorrow. So that'll be pretty good.
Yeah, so we got an early breakfast game tomorrow. But going back to that Broncos Jets game, it was one of the worst played pro football games I've seen in years. It was just awful.
Well,
10-9, and I mean, come on. And Bo Nix, is it Sean Payton trying to protect Bo Nix? Trying from
I think
put him
Sean
in a
Payton's a
position
problem if you
not
really
to-
think about
not
it.
to lose the game.
I think Sean Payton's a problem. If you really think about it now, looking back at it, why is it that they almost lost to the New York Jets in a very, very, very low scoring game? That's what I want to look at. I mean, they had opportunities. I mean, I think looking at it, maybe Sean Payton is the problem. Or
Listen,
maybe
I think
it's
I'm a big
everybody else on
Sean.
the team.
I'm a Sean Payton guy, but yeah, he doesn't have the talent there in Denver right now. So he was lucky to get out of there with a win. And again, people keep talking about the Jets and the early season indications where they're going to win 14 games and Aaron Rodgers this, Aaron Rodgers
No,
that, and their defense this, that, and the other thing. But their defense isn't stopping
it's been
anybody.
mismatched.
Yeah. So.
And then other big game, how about Jaden Daniels, the rookie quarterback? He's going to have a CJ Stroud type year. They beat the Cardinals 42-14. And this week, the Commanders are home to take on the Browns, which is going to be a good game because Browns are not good at all this year. They lose to the Las Vegas Raiders 20-16 as well last week. But how about Jaden Daniels? He's been leading this team. He is the CJ Stroud of this year, but better. Is that horrible to say, but it's better? But we could say better, though, if he makes the playoffs. That's when we could say the word better than CJ Stroud. But listen, don't get me wrong, CJ Stroud is having a good year, though, too.
Yeah, he has been really impressive, Jaden Daniels, no question about it. And, some of the couple of surprises when you look, I guess two of the big surprises is, the Minnesota Vikings in the year Sam Darnold's having. And they're 4-0. And listen, I've never been a supporter of Sam Darnold. It didn't work out in New York for him, and he's been bounced around a couple times. But he's playing for a good team.
He's got a home now.
and he's playing for I think one of the best young coaches in Kevin O'Connell in the National Football League, and
100%.
so that's
Now,
a
the
good
one
story.
question though I have is though, now that we're looking back at all these games and everything, Sam Darnold's doing great, but they just got a quarterback. If I'm not mistaken, they just got picked up a quarterback. He was out with an injury. Now the question is, if Sam Darnold can lead this team to success and victory in a playoff run, who's going to be the starting quarterback next year? Will it still be Sam Darnold? That's the big
Absolutely.
question.
Absolutely. I don't think they even thought McCarthy was going to be ready. I mean, it was a questionable pick. A lot of people, he made the top 10 in that draft, and a lot of people didn't think he was qualified. He was certainly, being a great college quarterback doesn't necessarily translate, as we know.
Fair enough.
We go back to guys like Ryan Leaf and Zach Wilson and so forth. So, but that's a surprise for me. And you know what? The Atlanta Falcons to me is a surprise team. And, Kirk Cousins is bringing a lot to that. He just threw for over 500 yards. So he's always been a quality NFL quarterback. And that's something that the Falcons have been lacking. They got a good running game. They got a good defense. So this could be one of the big surprise teams of the season.
Well, the Falcons could have lost last week 100%. I mean, the Saints really were in it the entire game. It came down to a 58-yard field goal kick, which resulted in the victory for the Falcons. But the Saints were in it the entire time. They had opportunities. It just came down to, did Atlanta make that kick? And they did for 58 yards. But Saints definitely were in it the entire time. 26-24 was the final of that game. Now, another game I want to look at, too, is the Kansas City Chiefs. They did beat the Los Angeles Chargers 17-10, but they did get another injury, a big injury, too. Rashid Rice is now injured. He's going to be out for a little bit of time. And another person I want to look at, remember, Pacheco was already injured to start the season already. So now you're down a lot of top guys. We got to watch out. Maybe this Kansas City team may not be as dangerous and powerful as they were for the past 4 weeks. They could be less competitive now that they're short guys, and Kelsey hasn't played to the Travis Kelsey that we know him to play football at.
But you have Patrick Mahomes, and now he's always been able to adjust to his personnel. And so you're right. Travis Kelsey hasn't been a focal point of the early on in the season for the Chiefs, but now they have to change their strategy. Remember, they do have this kid Xavier Worthy, who's outstanding as a wide receiver, the fastest guy in the league, most likely. But don't dismiss Patrick Mahomes.
100%.
Anybody that does is fooling themselves, because this guy finds a way to win. And I'm not worried about them. They're going to the playoffs, and they're going to be.
I worry about them a little bit. I know you don't underestimate Patrick Mahomes, but I worry. They're going to be playing a tough Saints team this Monday night. The Saints team almost beat the Falcons last week. Mm-hmm. They almost beat Philadelphia. And I use the word almost. They had big wins against Dallas and Carolina. I worry because this Saints team is a dangerous team that we got to watch out for, which could be a threat potentially to New Orleans. So this will be a very good Monday night game. Although it's not at the analytics and all that say, differently. This is actually going to be a great game. We're going to see a lot more than usual in this game.
Well, like always, though, the NFL, and I make this statement, I'm opposed to sports gambling, but people are, if people are betting on the NFL, I don't see how anybody could possibly make a living doing that. You just
absolutely you can these days. Absolutely.
I disagree. I mean, there's just upsets that come out of nowhere. Like who would think Andy Dalton comes off the bench and Carolina
wins that game? That's a fair point.
Stuff like that. So, good luck. You're not getting me to dial in and DraftKings and FanDuel. No,
all
sir.
Right.
No,
well, we know Jim is not part of it. No, don't worry.
I'd rather buy a lottery ticket, I guess. Yeah.
I guess you got to buy a lottery ticket. Good luck on the New Jersey lottery tonight.
Right.
All right.
Chances are like 5 billion to 1 that you're going to win it. But anyway,
whatever. Back to the reality.
Okay. So, Eli, we got some games this week.
All right. Now let's look at the injuries real quick before we make the picks. Neighbors is going to be out for Seattle. Jonathan Taylor is out for the Colts. Rice is out for the Chiefs. Some of the top 3 guys that we have to watch out for in terms of injuries.
Yeah. Well, Neighbors is big loss for the Giants because he's definitely shown that he's going to be a superstar in this league for sure. That's a big. But I think that the Giants, and well, we'll get into our picks and we'll talk
Yeah,
about
we'll
it. But
talk
those
about
are definitely some key injuries. All right, so I picked our 4 games this week, and let's go through them. My Giants are playing your Seahawks in Seattle. Excuse me.
that. No, you're good.
So I'm going to take the Giants. I think the Giants play well in Seattle.
Wow.
So I like them because they do play well in Seattle.
They
Daniel
do.
Jones is
Do that.
having, he's going to miss this Neighbors, but like I say, Dijon Robinson is not Dijon Robinson. What's the kid's name? Forgot for a second. Anyway, the wide receiver, Wandale Robinson.
Mondale, yeah. I was
So
gonna say.
he's actually a really good player. So I think he'll be the focal point, replacing Neighbors in the game. And listen, I know Seattle is 3-1. The Giants are 1-3, but I think we've seen the best that we're going to get out of Geno Smith. He's had a couple of really good years, but I'm going to take the Giants in that game.
Wow.
And for the second one, let's stay local with the Jets because I'm seeing more flaws in the Jets than I thought I would. And I saw Aaron Rodgers limping around, so he's not 100% healthy. His mobility is definitely not what it once was. So I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings, but this is a London game, and people are traveling, and there's a lot of
Factors into it.
outside factors when you
Hey,
travel international to play the game.
I
But
want to take a look at that real quick though. The turf has never been great in London, and it's kind of like the Jets on how they play in MetLife Stadium. So do they think they get the advantage? We'll see about that. But just want to throw that out there. That the turf is not always the
But I'm-
best in London.
but I'm going to take Minnesota because I think I think it's more than Sam Darnold. I think they really got a team, and Brian Flores has got that defense playing extremely well. So I like Minnesota's chances tomorrow. Another game, Dallas at Pittsburgh, and listen. I think Mike Tomlin is one of the best coaches in the game. I just 100% not completely sold on Justin Fields. He has some good games. He doesn't have some good games. And I know Dallas has kind of been struggling a little bit, but I think I like their chances on the road against Pittsburgh because I don't think Pittsburgh is at that level. But Dallas, they need to address this running back situation because obviously Zeke Elliott's not the guy to carry the team. And yes, Dallas has been a couple injuries with Micah Parsons, so forth. But I like Dallas to go into Pittsburgh and win that game on the road. And a game you mentioned before, Cleveland at Washington. And can this streak continue for Jaden Daniels? They're playing a terrible Cleveland Browns team. You know my feelings on Deshaun Watson. I wouldn't trade him straight up for Daniel Jones. So I like Washington to win that game and continue on a roll. And the kid's definitely on a rookie of the year track. And if he continues to play the way he's playing, he's going to be in the MVP conversation at the end of the year.
All right. Let's get to my picks. I'm going to start off with the Jets Vikings, 9:30 a.m. in London on NFL Network. The Vikings are still this perfect team. They're going to be traveling to London. They're going to be fierce. They're going to be tough, and they're ready to go. The Jets are coming off a bad loss to the Denver Broncos, and I feel like they're going to get a big victory here for the Vikings, and they're going to win no problem, 24-15.
Okay.
So I have the Vikings. Browns Commanders, 1 o'clock on Fox. I mean, really, this is just one of those games where if this was no Jaden Daniels, I would say this could be one of the worst games to watch of the day. But because Jaden Daniels is good, this could be competitive. The Browns have been really struggling lately, and I'm going to be taking, however, the Commanders in the victory, 26-15.
Okay, and let me just mention something. This is one of those example games that I've been talking about is why you can't make a living betting on the National Football League. I'm not going to be surprised. I did take Washington as well. But these
don't be
are one of
surprised.
those games.
Then Cleveland's
These are one of those games that people go, "Oh, this is a layup. Cleveland stinks." Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
But
well, no, it's
those are
not
the
always a
kind-
layup.
but those are the games that sometimes just catch people off guard and catch people by surprise. But okay, so we're both going Washington there.
All right. Well, now time to disagree. Seattle is home to take on the Giants, 4:25 p.m. on CBS. Listen, I know the Giants have been really good these past couple of years in Seattle. They've been struggling. They got a lot of injuries. Seattle's looking good. A few injuries left, but they're mostly healthy. And I'm going to take Seattle in the victory here, 20-17. Don't be surprised if it comes to be a close game.
What kind of year is Kenneth Walker having for Seattle so far?
Well, so far fantastic. Obviously, he's been injured a couple times, but he had a good game last week, even though it was a big loss to Detroit. But watch out for him as well.
Yep.
Cowboys travel to Steelers for Sunday Night Football, 8:20 p.m. NBC. Listen, Cowboys have been struggling. They got a big win versus New York Giants, but this Pittsburgh Steelers team is for real and different. Justin Fields is the answer. Mike Tomlin has been a fantastic coach and has got this team to far victories. They're going to go far again. I am taking the Pittsburgh Steelers in the victory here, 30-22. So I have Steelers, Commanders, Vikings, Seahawks for the victory, and that's our picks.
Okay, well, those are certainly two picks. We differ on two of the four, so that could influence who's wearing the crown a week from today.
All righty, Jim. Good luck. That's all I could say.
All right, listen, before we go into random points, just real quick, let's touch on it's amazing that, believe it or not, excuse me, the NHL season started yesterday with the
Devils,
can you
believe it?
And a big win. The opening up the season in Czechoslovakia, so they're actually playing right now. But these guys, this NHL season, it seems like it just ended. It's the longest, most challenging season,
and they're back at it.
Sport. I mean, it's almost an 8-month off, and they play 8 months of a season. It goes till June. I mean, compared to the other sports, it's amazing that these guys are back at it again already. And you know what it's like to go through the NHL playoffs. So this is a good thing. And there's a couple of quick things. So there've been some coaching changes, right? Yes. We have Craig Berube took over for the Maple Leafs. Brendan Keefe took over for the Devils. And your old coach for the Devils, Lindy Ruff, former coach, I think,
already got his first loss of the season.
Yeah, Buffalo.
Remember, the Devils are in Prague
with a Sabres fan yesterday. It's been, you want to talk about, it's been 2012 since the last time they made the playoffs, and so can Lindy Ruff turn this program around?
No,
I don't think he's the long-term solution, but he is a qualified coach, and but maybe not. We'll see.
But we have a great
Sikorsky in San Jose, right? Took over for David Quinn, and he's the youngest head coach in the league at 36 years old. So a lot of changes for these teams, and
a great opening night. We open up for the NHL as well. We have a great ESPN triple header, 4:30, St. Louis, Seattle. Great game to open up to. 7 p.m., Boston, Florida. Another competitive game. 10 p.m., Chicago, Utah. These are three fantastic games to watch out for. It's going to be competitive. It's going to be insane. And it's going to be a crazy, wild ride. Can't wait for it.
But what a long season in the NHL, isn't it? It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
It really is. And also,
these guys never miss a game.
It's amazing. They're not like the NBA, and they play just as hard. Can you believe it?
You bet.
And they are not paid enough, though. I give you that one. They're not paid enough, I feel.
Well, I'm going to bring one of those to that point. I got a topic in random points, which we're going to jump into right now. And of course, that's sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. So yeah, to that point, the pay scale, and we brought it up last week. Sidney Crosby at the twilight of his career, kind of thing, and he's only, and I say only in quotes. It's still you could still make a living on $8 million a year. Yeah. But one of my points is, the pending free agency of Igor Shesterkin in New York, and he's making demands like he wants to be the highest paid player in the league at 12. He's asking for $12-13 million, which
a lot of money, basically.
in hockey terms, it's just not something that they pay these guys. I mean, ultimately, guys like Draisaitl and Connor McDavid will be the highest paid players. But the Rangers have a decision, yes, and a couple of guys have made the case. When you look at Igor Shesterkin's playoff record, it's barely over 500. He's definitely a quality top 3 goaltender, but can they afford to pay somebody that kind of money without compromising the pay scale for the other players on the team? Because sometimes a goalie can keep the team in play.
Right.
Yeah. So keep an eye on that one. And as you brought up before, Buster Posey takes over as new general manager or head of baseball operations for San Francisco. He's got 3 World Series title. So he's got an opportunity to turn that program around because they've been struggling as of late. And get ready for this Bronny LeBron NBA teammates, and I don't know how this is going to pan out. It's gonna
be the Lakers are gonna still be horrible, and that'll be still the center of attention in the NBA, and that's because of Bronny James and LeBron James. So they could be horrible, and you're gonna hear about that more than the winning team in the NBA.
Yeah, well, I don't think Bronny James is that quality of a player, but
but he's got a reputation because of his father.
Exactly, and that's exactly why he's on the NBA roster. And I actually saw something that I recall saying specifically that in that draft, and the Lakers took him in the 2nd round, that nobody was allowed to pick him except the Los Angeles Lakers. Because Golden State were considering picking him, and somebody kind of let it slip that it was kind of understood that he's going to the Lakers. So don't pick him.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It is.
And yeah, you brought up a little bit of the WNBA. I'm kind of almost a little bit over the WNBA. I think overexposure is happening, but Caitlin Clark wins Rookie of the Year. I'm sure Angel Reese is not happy about that. She only got 1 vote for Rookie of the Year, but she's a real dominating force in this league. But you can't argue the numbers for Caitlin Clark on that front. And one final one that I have before you give us your random points. This whole phenomenon, and I think it's pretty cool, these Savannah Bananas. And it's awesome. The minor league team. And now they're going to be almost like going on a tour and playing in Major League Baseball stadiums, like pregame thing. And I was looking at it. They have like weird rules, like, kind of things like you can get walked, and then you could keep running the bases until someone throws you out. Those example of something.
It's funny though.
It's funny. It's entertaining, and I think it's great for baseball.
Absolutely. And it's sold out more than a typical MLB stadium is. That's crazy.
I know. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing them. I've just seen basically highlights, and it looks like it's kind of
it's like a real show.
You would know it's kind of like the Harlem Globetrotters of
baseball,
basketball, right?
Right.
But this is kind of a phenomenon, and it's really catching on. And they just signed a contract. They're going to be playing in Major League Baseball season stadiums throughout the next season. That's pretty cool, I think.
Crazy.
All right, Eli, what's yours?
We'll start off with some NFL news. The NFL suspended defensive tackle Mike Hall Jr. for 5 games without pay after breaking the personal conduct policy, and also Bills linebacker Von Miller for the same reasons, but for 4 games.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Devontae Adams intends to leave the Raiders. So where will he go next?
You know where he's going. He's going where I told you he was going last week. He's going to the Jets.
All right.
And he's out. He's actually out with a hamstring injury. Hamstring my foot. His head coach basically said, we're going to trade him. So he's getting traded, and he's going to the Jets.
All right. Meanwhile, Panthers and many other teams and people such as Luke Combs are donating money to relief for hurricane efforts and damage in North Carolina. So congratulations. And we send up the best and hope for the best. And thank you.
We sure do. I mean, you're talking just this could arguably one of the worst hurricanes
we've seen in a while,
States and maybe of all time. It's just utter devastation. And we do send our thoughts and prayers out to the
Absolutely.
people of South Carolina and Florida. Yep.
Meanwhile, there is Pat McAfee will join NFL Game Day mornings on NFL Network after their return from the International Series. So he'll be joining there. So in case if he doesn't have enough jobs, he has another one too to his resume.
Okay.
Back to the WNBA. In the WNBA, things are heating up. Minnesota defeated Connecticut last night 90-81 into Game 3. The series stands at Minnesota at 2-1. Las Vegas defeated New York 95-81, keeping the series still alive. New York leads 2-1. No games today. Tomorrow, if Minnesota and New York both win, they will move on to the championship game. If not, Game 5 will take place on Tuesday. Tomorrow, the game stands at 3 p.m. ABC, New York versus Las Vegas, and 5 p.m. ESPN, Minnesota versus Connecticut. So watch out for those games.
Yeah.
Finally,
I got one. Oh, go ahead.
For some two other notes, the NCAA announced 2027-2028 D1 women's basketball regional sites for the 2027-2028 years. 2027 will be in Las Vegas and Philadelphia, and 2018 will be Portland and DC.
Okay.
One other note I have, we are going to Utah, I guess, because Utah Hockey Club announced its concession stand prices, and it's the lowest in the NHL. $2 for water, $3 for popcorn, nachos, hot dogs, and ice cream. Inflation finally didn't hit something, everyone. So head to Utah. And that's my random points.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, the Utah's playing in almost like a high school stadium. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, but you know what? The concession prices are awesome. And if you go to another stadium right now, guarantee you it's up from last year. So just want to throw that out there.
All right. I got one more I needed to bring up because I had an opportunity. I know this is somebody that if your career takes the path that his does, had an opportunity to go see Bob Costas speak during the week down in Morristown, New Jersey. And, he's got 29 Grammys and, you could make a case. He's certainly knowledgeable.
Emmys, not Grammys.
It was entertaining because I've known him. I've been watching him. He's out of Syracuse, and that's the path Eli's going to be taking. He's going to be the next Bob Costas in 20 years. So
thank you.
All right, Eli.
Time now for entertainment and photos, sponsored by Vital Selections. Don't forget to scan that QR code to learn more.
Yep. And I got a movie recommendation, and
so
I don't know. For some reason, I've been seeing a lot of stuff, and I think I gave one. Was last week was a couple of weeks ago was Back to School, but there's also a great Rodney Dangerfield movie called Easy Money, and that's anything Rodney, as far as I'm concerned, is funny. So check that. That's my movie recommendation of the week.
Well, it's honor of October. It's Halloween month, so watch something Halloween themed or a scary movie. And one of my top picks, Ghostbusters. So there you go.
Okay.
And here are some photos.
And there he is, the man, the myth, the legend. That's Hudson Miller, and that's my grandson. So he's just started his 2-year-old school. And go to the other picture because that's my older grandson. Look, if you notice, he's wearing a Patrick Mahomes shirt, and he's watching the Chiefs game on TV. So
he's all into it. Love it.
He is so into Patrick Mahomes. It's great. And I may actually go because his other biggest fan of Justin Jefferson because himself does a great gritty.
So, okay. All righty. I'm sure you've been, have you taught us how to do the gritty? Has he taught you so you know?
I could be embarrassed by trying to do the gritty.
Well, I tell you, we got a lot of views. So, Jim, you're going to have to work on doing that for next show.
Yeah.
We'll make it a short. So, have your grandson teach you how to do the gritty and then send that video to me so we can have a good viewership for the week. You trust me, this will go wild, this place.
All right, Eli. Let's move on to our notable passings. And unfortunately, this is a gigantic week. A lot of notables for us to talk about. And, I was going to bring up Pete Rose, of course. He passed away this week. But we talked about it extensively about a month ago when I saw the documentary. And I'm standing firmly in my position. I mean, I admired him as a player. I watched him as a player, but his actions were reprehensible. And I know guys like Bob Costas thinks he still belongs in the Hall of Fame. And I say no, it was just too much when he crossed the line by betting on his own team for his own profit, and that's just compromising the integrity. And I'm standing still on my philosophy that he can't get in the Hall of Fame because of those actions. So that was a big one from the world of sports. There was another one, Dikembe Mutombo, and when you want to talk about classy, quality people, he is just, he was great in the NBA. He was just like a blocking machine, second most blocks in NBA history. But he's also a humanitarian and just a great guy. He did so much for the Democratic Republican of Congo, where he was from, and he was only 58 years old. So that's a
Yeah.
big loss for the NBA. Wanted to bring that up. Also from the world of sports, and this is notable because Ozzie Virgil was 92 years old, and he was the first Dominican Republic baseball player in Major League Baseball.
Hmm.
And that's certainly notable because now when you see it, there's a lot more Dominicans, and the baseball. It's like a baseball factory, of course. But he
Absolutely.
set the standard for it, and he was the first one, and he was actually um, an ex-Marine in the United States as well. So you know, that's definitely notable from our perspective. Not only was he a class guy, but he was also a patriot of the United States and the first Dominican. He was 92 years old. And I just came in this morning. I saw Greg Landry, former quarterback of the Detroit Lions for many years, and I watched him play time and time again when I was growing up. He was like a sixth pick in the draft back in 1968. He was 77 years old. Didn't have a great career, but played a lot. He played 16 years in the NFL, and I just heard about that this morning. So um, that was big. And one last one from the world of sports: three-time U.S. Open women's tournament champ was Susie Maxwell Burning, who was 83 years old. So, when one of the forerunners of making the LPGA what it was today, and that's three-time winner. There's not many women that have won the U.S. Open three times. So she
Absolutely.
was she was 83, and a couple from the world of entertainment, and I one of them came up was Chris Christopherson, and he was a longtime actor, and I got to tell you, I'm gonna make a statement here because I wasn't a big fan of his. For some reason, he just kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Hmm.
But when I saw the Ken Burns special on country music, which those documentaries are just phenomenal. He was definitely a presence in country music, and he did some movies and acting, but he was 88 years old. So I'm going to give him more credit than I gave him for his entire life. Well, I was aware of him, but that I actually gained a lot more respect for him over the course of time, and he was 88. And also another one, John Ashton. Now, a lot of people may not recognize the name, but if you've seen Beverly Hills Cop or Midnight Run, great
Yeah.
actor, funny actor. He was 77 years old, so he passed away this week. And also, one of our all-time Monahan favorites was John Amos. He was from Good
Yeah.
Time and Roots, and he
And all that.
also what was the Coming to America? He was,
Yep.
he was in that with him. He was just a great actor, and
He really
I
died in like
actually,
August, they said.
huh?
They said they died in August, they were saying? Was the one article or is that wrong?
Yeah, I don't know, and they just never released it, but it's the first we heard of it. He was 84.
I heard it. It
Um,
was amazing. I couldn't believe that.
but there was also I saw this thing, a backstory on him about he was, like a football player, and he aspired, like he went to USC, didn't make the team, went to Long Beach State, got cut, didn't dispute with the coach, but it's an interesting little blurb you can catch on X on John Amos. But you know what, as part of being a cast member on Roots and such a prominent show like Good Times. I loved the guy, loved his acting. So
Absolutely.
yeah, wow, what a big week!
What a
big week.
crazy week. I couldn't believe it. But we got through it, and we send our thoughts and prayers, as always.
Okay.
And we do have a program
Eli,
alert for next week. For
yes.
next week's show, the October 12th show, we'll be live at 8 in the morning. Usually we do 9, but we're going to be live at 8 o'clock. That's because I have some priorities to do for St. Mary football, homecoming for St. Mary's. So we will be live at 8 o'clock next week.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely different for us, and we'll make a program announcement next week for the following week's show, because we may have to alter our time, and we're going to figure out.
We will be working on that, and we'll announce details next week.
Yeah, we may do actually a Friday night, because we always like to get in and discuss college football, on Saturday. So we'll figure something out.
We'll work on it. We'll talk about it.
We will. Again, as always, just thank you to our loyal listeners for all the comments. And like I said, our show's been gaining a lot of momentum. We're very, very happy with it. We love the interaction with you guys. So send us an email at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com. And Eli, good luck with your game today, or what your event is.
No, they played last week. So today we're good. Nothing today.
Okay. All right, and then this, you know what? Oh, actually, we got to talk about we'll do the program alert next week, because high school football is in full gear, and St. Joe's has a big game against Don Bosco next Friday night, and looking forward to that. So,
absolutely.
All right, guys. So thank you everybody for joining us. Eli, great job, and nice with the pink banners for Breast Cancer Awareness Week. And again, our thoughts and prayers out to the people in North Carolina and Florida, the devastation they're enduring right now.
Absolutely. Well, take care, everyone, and have a great week. See you next week at 8.
So.